On Thursday, Warner Brothers Discovery announced that it will be restructuring its business into two separate units. The global linear networks side will include cable channels like CNN, TBS, and TNT. Meanwhile, the streaming and studios portion will house the Max streaming channel as well as the company's film and entertainment studios. Warner Brothers Discovery says that this decision will likely take effect by the middle of next year. To talk more about this is Seth Schachner. He is joining us now. He is the managing director at Strat Americas to talk more about it. Good morning, Seth.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So what do you make of this news? Do you see it as a smart strategic move by Warner Brothers Discovery, and why?
I think it's kind of remains to be seen how smart and strategic it is. And I think for sure a lot of the legacy studio systems here are kind of doing their part to set the stage either to sell or trade or merge some of their legacy, pay TV and linear television businesses. And that's what this split is all about. Their competitor, Comcast, has done it, I think, in probably a more strategic way. And I think Paramount's looking at it as well. But yeah, the idea, I think, will be to set the stage so that they can either sell or do something a little more strategic with those old TV channels. But I don't know if we're ready to call it successful just yet.
Now, do you think that the move, though, was essentially a plan to make future deals and perhaps a potential sale?
Yeah, I think it's very clear. I mean, the odd thing about pay TV or linear television, Wall Street, I know I'm speaking to to Wall Street this morning, I think looks at these things as legacy dying businesses. They actually still throw off a lot of cash flow. And I still see it as an entertainment, and media practitioner, not just an analyst, as still an important part of the ecosystem. So I think clearly they're looking to do something with it. It would likely be a sale or a merger, and you can sort of forecast what a lot of those will look like. But, I'm not one who just jumps on the bus and says sell them all. You got to get rid of them right now and just maximize the stock value, because I think even some of these legacy networks have an important role to play in the media business ecosystem. So I look at it, a little cautiously right now to see what's actually going to happen.
And this is the second major shift by a media giant in the past few weeks. Comcast recently announcing its plans to spin off several of its networks. What makes this situation different?
Well, Warner is a different beast than Comcast is much bigger, has got everything from theme parks to it, and and actual cable operations, and they can kind of afford to do that. They don't really need the cash flow. I think Warner is a little bit different because it's more, to me, of a pure play entertainment ecosystem, part of business, even with the Discovery merger. And they have some super strong assets on HBO, and I think what they're doing in terms of combining the assets will be very interesting in terms of theatrical releases, in terms of advertising, even in terms of things like rights with sports, where all these studios and networks are competing for it, in some cases losing out to the tech titans. So I think Warner is a very core Hollywood studio, and I don't know, personally, I don't want to see the whole thing just be plucked apart and sold, basically. And it's a little bit different than some of the others for that reason.
And as we're seeing cable declines, and we're also seeing a plethora of TV bundles, streaming bundles on the rise, what does this deal say about the overall business of TV and streaming businesses?
Well, it says that I think, over the next year or so, these media mergers and media transactions are going to keep happening, basically, because there's competition for everything you just mentioned across the board. And some people are theorizing that, with the new administration, there'll be a little bit more of a hands-off attitude setting the stage for that. And that's what people have been, sort of putting on David Zaslav in terms of why this is happening. I don't think a lot of these mergers have actually stopped if you look at the last year. So I think we're still going to be in this state of transformation and a lot of competition from the tech titans, which are going to be competing across the board. And that's kind of why Warner is doing this. They also need to make those streaming services profitable. So, cost cuts and consolidations, maybe you'll see that over at Paramount in terms of overlapping TV networks they plunk together. So it's still going to be a time of transformation over the next year or so.
Seth, I do want to get your long-term take here. How do you think that Wall Street analysts are viewing deals like this?
It's a great question. I think Wall Street clearly shifted from telling streaming services and studios just to go, go, go and grow, grow, grow. And I think they've become a lot more focused on profitability. And I think that is, in essence, kind of a follow-on to what that phase was all about. So I think, yeah, the next year or so will probably be, does it make sense to put, these streaming services or these television networks together, basically? Maybe that's a Comcast Paramount combination. Maybe Warner, would combine, because ultimately they're all competing with the big entities like Netflix and Prime. And so I think the street will probably look at it strategically that way, moving just beyond the focus first was on consumer acquisition and then on profitability. So be a new phase, definitely very interesting.
Now, we have about 45 seconds left here, Seth, but incoming president, President Donald Trump, he was here just yesterday bringing the opening bell. How do you think the upcoming administration, this deal with the cable wars and buyouts, what's your take on that?
It's interesting. I don't know just yet. I think that some of the regulators I've heard that have just been proposed are tough and not folks that you can just say are going to be hands off and let anyone do what they want. I do tend to think it'll be business friendlier and there will be a little bit more space for maneuvering. For sure, President Trump understands this ecosystem in business more than others do. So I tend to think it will be more deal oriented. There'll be perhaps a little bit less regulatory interference, but some of these transactions that are been the Skydance Paramount transaction, this one, if it gets merged, will certainly be things that the regulators will look at. So I don't think it's going to be a radical difference from the last 4 years. But I think it'd be an interesting thing to see, to watch when the new regulator gets in.
A lot to look out for right there. Thank you so much, Seth Schachner, Managing Director at Strat Americas.
To be here.